stand up." The command echoed across the packed lecture hall. 40 graduate students with the teaching assistants present all turned in their seats. Professor Andrew Whitaker held up a printed research paper like evidence in a courtroom. "Maya Carter," he said coldly, "did you really think no one would notice?" The room went silent. Whitaker dropped the paper on the podium. "You plagiarized this entire research project." Gasps filled the lecture hall. Then he delivered the line that changed everything. "And, because of that, you've just failed this course." What he didn't know yet was that the research paper he used to accuse her already had her name on it. Stay with this story until the end, because the moment the truth appears on the screen in front of the entire department, a professor's career begins collapsing in real time. Maya Carter slowly stood from her seat. Her chair scraped against the lecture hall floor. Every student turned to look at her, some curious, some uncomfortable, others already judging. Professor Whitaker folded his arms. "Academic integrity is the foundation of scholarship," he said to the class. Then he pointed at Maya. "And today we have a perfect example of what happens when someone violates it." A girl near the front whispered, "Wow." Whitaker picked up another document. This research project was clearly copied from an article published earlier this month. He held the printed journal article high enough for everyone to see. "I checked the databases personally." Then he looked directly at Maya. "You're denying it?" Maya forced herself to speak. "Yes." Her voice was calm but tight. "That research is mine." A few students exchanged skeptical looks. Whitaker gave a short laugh. "Miss Carter, I've been teaching graduate research methods for 27 years. He tapped the journal article. "And the original author of this study is already published." Then he delivered the humiliation. "Which means you stole it." The words hit harder than the accusation itself. Maya felt more than 40 pairs of eyes burning into her. Whitaker continued, "You have received an automatic F." Someone in the back muttered, "Damn." "And the case has been submitted to the Academic Integrity Board." Now the silence in the room felt heavy. Maya swallowed. "That research is mine," she repeated, "and it is based on 2 years of field interviews in Southside redevelopment zones." Whitaker shook his head slowly. "You can make that argument to the review board." Then he added the line that would haunt him later, "Though I doubt anyone will believe it." By the time Maya stepped outside, the entire department had heard. Rumors spread fast in academic buildings, even faster when the accusation involved a black student in a mostly white graduate program. Later that afternoon, Maya sat in the university library. Her hands shook slightly as she searched the journal Whitaker mentioned. The article appeared instantly. "Housing displacement in urban redevelopment zones." She opened it, and her heart dropped. The research was identical. Her interviews, her case studies, her conclusions, everything. But the name at the top said something else. Daniel Whitaker, Professor Whitaker's son. The humiliation that morning had been brutal. But the realization in that library room was worse, because suddenly everything made sense. 3 months earlier, Daniel Whitaker had asked to see her draft. He claimed he was interested in her field interviews. She had trusted him. Now her research had been published under his name, and his father had just accused her of stealing it. Maya had evidence to prove the research was hers, but she couldn't help but wonder what becomes of her after the hearing, because academic misconduct didn't just affect grades. It followed students. Scholarships disappeared. Doctoral programs closed their doors. Careers ended before they started. And deep down, she knew something else. For some students, accusations were investigated. For others, they were assumed. The Academic Review Board hearing happened the following Monday. Conference room 214. When Maya walked in, the room was already full. 3 faculty members, department administrators, and several graduate observers. The same students who had watched her humiliation now sat quietly along the walls. Professor Whitaker sat calmly at the table, confident, like a man who believed the outcome was already decided. The chair of the board began. We are reviewing allegations of plagiarism regarding Miss Maya Carter's research submission. Whitaker spoke first. This is a straightforward case. He held up the journal article. This research was published under Daniel Whitaker's name before Ms. Carter submitted her paper. He placed the article on the table. The similarities are obvious. Then he leaned back, satisfied. The chair turned to Maya. Ms. Carter, your response. Maya stood. Her heart was pounding. But her voice stayed steady. I would like to show the board something. She connected her laptop to the projector. The screen lit up. An email confirmation appeared. Journal archive submission, submission date. 6 months earlier, attached manuscript, author, Maya Carter. The room shifted immediately. Whitaker frowned. What is this? My original submission to the journal's student research archive. Maya clicked the attachment. The manuscript opened. The title page appeared. Author, Maya Carter. Submission date, 6 months before Daniel Whitaker's article. The room went silent. One professor leaned forward slowly. Professor Whitaker, were you aware of this? Whitaker's confidence cracked. No. Another board member asked the question that broke the case open. How did Daniel Whitaker obtain access to this research? Maya answered calmly. I shared an early draft with him during seminar discussions. The realization spread through the room. Slow, heavy, unavoidable. The student accused of plagiarism was the one whose research had been stolen. But the real moment happened when the chair of the board spoke again. Professor Whitaker. Her voice was calm, but firm. You publicly accused Ms. Carter of academic misconduct. Whitaker shifted in his seat. Yes. She gestured toward the projector. Yet the evidence now shows this research was submitted under her name months before your son's publication. The room was completely silent. The chair continued. So the question is no longer whether Ms. Carter plagiarized. She paused. The question is whether her work was taken. Whitaker didn't respond. For the first time since the case began, he had nothing to say. The silence in conference room 214 lasted nearly 10 seconds. 10 seconds where no one spoke. 10 seconds where the entire department stared at the projector screen displaying the original manuscript. Author, Maya Carter. Submission date, 6 months earlier. The chair of the Academic Review Board finally closed her folder. Professor Whitaker, she said carefully, please remain seated. The words were polite, but the tone carried weight. She turned to the other faculty members. I think we all understand what this evidence indicates. One professor nodded slowly. Yes. Another spoke more bluntly. This is not a plagiarism case. He looked toward Whitaker. This is an intellectual theft case. The room shifted. Professor Whitaker's face had gone pale. My son would never. The chair cut him off. This hearing is no longer about your son's intentions. Her voice hardened. It is about the accusation you made publicly against Ms. Carter. She turned toward Maya. Ms. Carter, please remain seated while the board reviews this matter. Whitaker leaned forward. You can't seriously be suggesting. But the chair raised her hand. Professor Whitaker. Her voice dropped into something colder. You publicly failed a student for plagiarism. She gestured toward the projector. Without verifying the authorship of the work you used as evidence. Whitaker said nothing. Another board member spoke. Additionally, the author of the article you cited shares your last name. That landed heavily. The implication was clear. The professor accusing Maya had relied on an article written by his own son, a son who now appeared to have stolen the research. The chair opened another folder. Effective immediately, she said. Ms. Carter's failing grade is removed. Maya felt her chest loosen for the first time in days. But the chair wasn't finished. The plagiarism accusation is dismissed in full. Students along the wall exchanged stunned looks. Then she turned toward Whitaker. And Professor Whitaker. The room waited. You are placed on immediate administrative leave pending investigation. Gasps broke through the silence. Whitaker looked stunned. You're suspending me? No, the chair said calmly. We are investigating whether academic misconduct occurred within your supervision. The implication was devastating. Because if Daniel Whitaker had stolen the research, someone had approved the publication. Someone had helped it reach the journal. And that question would now be investigated. 2 weeks later, the journal released a statement. The article authored by Daniel Whitaker was officially retracted. The editors cited unverified authorship and misrepresentation of original research. In academic language, that meant one thing. The research wasn't his. Daniel Whitaker's graduate fellowship was suspended. His doctoral program opened a formal misconduct review, and the publication that was supposed to launch his career became the document that nearly ended it. The department investigation lasted 6 weeks. When the final report came out, the conclusion was blunt. Professor Whitaker had publicly accused a student of plagiarism without verifying evidence. He had relied on a publication authored by his own son, and he had ignored multiple opportunities to review Maya Carter's documented research history. The university issued an official disciplinary action. Whitaker was removed from the Academic Integrity Committee. His research supervision privileges were suspended for a year, and he was required to issue a formal written apology to Maya Carter. But the moment people remembered most happened months later. The same lecture hall, the same podium, the department hosted its annual research symposium. Graduate students presented their work to faculty and visiting scholars. When Maya Carter walked to the podium, the room was full. Her research had already begun circulating in housing policy discussions. She connected her laptop to the projector. The first slide appeared. Housing displacement in urban redevelopment zones. Author, Maya Carter. The audience applauded before she even started speaking, because everyone in that room knew exactly what it had taken for that name to finally appear where it belonged. Sometimes the loudest voice in the room isn't the one telling the truth. Sometimes authority protects itself before it protects fairness. And sometimes the person accused of stealing the work is the one who actually created it. Maya Carter didn't win because someone defended her. She won because she documented everything. Evidence, preparation, truth. Those things speak louder than power ever will. If you stayed with this story until the very end, subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Because the next story might expose something even bigger